The Hon Paul Brown.
Thank you, Madam Acting President. I rise to make a contribution to this motion as well. The motion that this council calls on the Barnett government to support the introduction of a crop risk mitigation product in Western Australia, I think are very sound. Very sound. I mean, which one of us here in this chamber wouldn't support the introduction of a crop risk mitigation product, whether that's by government or whether that's by, through, as the Honourable Darren West said, through putting money directly into subsidy, which I probably don't agree with, but there is other ways which we can support the introduction of crop risk mitigation products into Western Australia. As the Minister for Agriculture, Honourable Ken Baston, just announced that there is a cabinet submission coming forward, and once again, that is driven through royalties for regions. And back in the 2013 state election, as part of the Nationals policy, as it was then, before it was adopted wholly by government, we announced the Seizing the Opportunity package, the vision for agriculture, and that said quite clearly that we wanted to invest, would invest $10 million over 5 years to help WA grain growers to better manage risk. This will improve expanding the weather station network, building radar stations at Merredin and Jurien, as we announced then. That may well change depending on what the agricultural DAFWA and BOM suggest. And we also wanted to expand the number of yield profit sites which underlay the radar network as we intended at that time. So, and we had extensive discussions with the Bureau of Meteorology at the time, and the advice that they came back to us with was that to fully implement a risk management product such as multi-peril crop insurance, there would need to be, and all the insurance companies were also giving this information to us as well, there would need to be a radar network or additional radars as part of the network. But one of the most important things, as well as a Doppler-capable digital high-definition radars, one of the key components would be an underlying network of weather stations at sites throughout the main grain-growing areas of our state, which I represent, as others do here. As I said previously, that policy was adopted in whole by the government, and now the minister has carriage for a large proportion of delivering a large proportion of that policy. And I'm very happy to see that both he and the Minister for Regional Development, the Honourable Terry Redmond, have agreed to put a cabinet submission to Cabinet to look at further funding for this. I also note that in the budget this year there was some $3.5 million also allocated to multi-peril crop insurance, to helping our growers manage risk. And that is a considerable amount of money, a lot more than has been spent by any previous government on helping our growers manage their risk. And through that we've been able to, that's been a recognition of the complex nature of farming in Western Australia these days. We have changing weather. We have changing weather patterns, changing climate. We have falling rainfall. Rainfall figures falling in many areas, many of our more marginal areas out on the eastern fringes of our wheat belt, which at one time a while ago were very productive year on year. That situation has changed. But the Honourable Nigel Hallett said in his speech that insurance was a fundamental part of farming these days. Whether you take out finance for a new Land Cruiser or Hilux Ute, or whether you take it out for a John Deere or a New Holland or one of the other tractors, pieces of machinery, you're required to have insurance. And now, as farm debt rises and farming enterprises are getting bigger, so the zeros at the end of your finance application each year are getting larger. So too is the requirement by our financial institutions and our banks to have insurance. But nonetheless, these are all commercial packages, and we've been very cognizant of the fact that it places a too great a risk on the government to directly subsidise farmers with these products. I'm not having a shot at any one farmer or any farmers in particular, but there is a possibility that by direct subsidy of multi-peril crop insurance, that some farmers may be encouraged to undertake risky behaviour in regards to their risk. One of the things that we've said as Nationals, and we are well on record of this, we've written to the Minister for Agriculture, we've written to the then Treasurer at the time, Troy Buswell, and one of the things that we asked for was that for a period of 2 years, that the stamp duty on multi-peril crop insurance be waived. And this would have been money foregone anyway, because if nobody took up multi-peril crop insurance packages, the stamp duty wouldn't have been coming to government anyway. So by waiving stamp duty for a period of 2 years, possibly more, but we advocated for a period of 2 years, that this would allow the crop insurance, multi-peril crop insurance market to mature and allow our farmers to uptake those commercial packages. While this is not a direct subsidy, nonetheless, as I said, it is an indirect subsidy by removing the stamp duty and allowing that maturation and allowing our farmers to enter into that market. It was unfortunate that the Treasurer, Troy Buswell, didn't agree with our proposal, and basically wasn't prepared to support our proposal. But we have moved into to other ways which we can support farmers with the uptake of multi-peril by having Doppler radars and weather station sites to allow for data collection, which allows the crop insurance companies to have a better understanding of the special requirements we hear in WA with in regard to our weather, and they can specifically target packages for our state as opposed to Europe or Canada or United States. One of the other things that we've been able to do to mitigate the risk to our grain growers is the introduction of the RMCP, the Regional Mobile Communications Project. We've actually made it easier in a lot of areas, and we're continuing to roll that program out. Whereas a lot of our farmers these days, as I've said before, are very tech savvy on the phone, on the mobile, on the smartphone, and on the iPad while we're driving machines, whether that be seeding, whether that be harvesting, whether that be spraying. They're out in the paddock or at home, looking at data, looking at markets, looking at prices. So we've been able to initiate. Well, we've actually finished the stage one RMCP, which was a $40 million package through Royalties for Regions that married up with another $60 million from Telstra, which rolled out 113 mobile towers across Western Australia. And that was such a success that it saw an extra mobile coverage through our regional areas equal to that, I think one or 1.5 times the size of Tasmania a fairly significant area with which we now have mobile coverage. Just recently, we've also announced Stage 2, called the RTP, Regional Telecommunications Project. That's another $45 million through Royalties for Regions, and that's going to roll out another 87 mobile towers, and most if not all, but certainly, well, not all, but a good majority of those will be through our grain growing areas. We've been able to identify where the black spots are, and whereas the 113 towers that were rolled out through Stage 1 mostly were on highways, and those highways also ran through the grain growing districts of our state. But the $45 million Stage 2 RTP will be filling in those black spots that in between the highways, in the growing areas around our regional communities. This will allow, once again, better coverage to not only mobile phone but to data and internet, so that way our growers, our very important grain growers throughout the agricultural region and into areas like the Honourable Dave Grills in mining and pastoral, Esperance, Ravensthorpe, and also into the Yilgarn area as well, can have access to data which will also be provided with that mobile telecommunications network that we're providing, will also benefit the radar sites. The radar sites will be able to, feed back in through the network back into our grain growers, so they can look at wind direction, they can look at weather forecast, they can look at soil moisture content, they can look at a range of programs through the eConnect system that we've announced, and that will also go to reducing the risk to our grain growers. As the Honourable Mark Lewis also said, one of the great things that we use here, or that many use here in Western Australia now, is no-till farming. I used it myself, and that came from my in-laws down at Esperance. They worked on very fragile soils, and we saw the benefit of that year on year. And we've seen some very good uptake of that no-till farming. Some of the major grain growing groups in Western Australia now advocate wholly for no-till farming, and in fact the No-Till Farming Association of Western Australia has been a world leader in regard to no-till farming. I was fortunate enough to play squash in Northern with one of the professors, Ken Flower, that who was one of the very on the very forefront of advocacy for no-till farming here in Western Australia, and he actually brought that advocacy from Zimbabwe and South Africa with him as well. So it is, but now we are known throughout the world for our no-till farming practices. We'll see advocates as well in the industry, such as No-Till Bill, the old Bill Crabtree. He's been a fantastic advocate of no-till farming. He's also been an outstanding advocate for GM crop as well. But that's an argument for another time. One of the things, as I said earlier, about the removal of as we advocated for, the removal of stamp duty on multiple crop insurance products, is that it was actually it didn't specify any one product. If you wanted a yield-based product, or if you wanted a revenue-based product, you didn't. The stamp duty removal didn't actually wasn't biased to any one product or any one company. So that was one of the reasons why the Nationals, and why we advocated to the Honourable Ken Baston as Agriculture Minister, and to Troy Buswell as the Treasurer, that we be able to remove that stamp duty and be able to offer that product maturation to our growers. When the Honourable Terry Redmond was Minister for Agriculture, he actually made a speech to the WA Farmers Federation and outlining his belief for multi-peril crop insurance, and once again, as I said earlier, it was his belief back then, and that has also helped form the belief of the Nationals WA, is that we are very cognizant of the fact that very significant damage can be done to our farming areas throughout the year. We've got frost, we've got hail damage. Hail damage is now currently covered under your normal farm insurance package, as is fire, as is damage done by livestock. But one of the things that we do see, and we saw it last year, where we had major sections of the wheat belt that were laid waste, crops flattened by hail, and one of the uncle of the Honourable Mayor Davies, the member for Central Wheatbelt, Quentin Davies, he was on the front page of I think the Countryman and the Farm Weekly and the Western Australian, standing in a paddock of hail-damaged wheat and barley, and it was into a very early season for him. The hardest decision he had to make was where he was going to go on holiday that year. Left his headers and left his machines inside the shed. But at the same time, while he had insurance on hail damage, in the very same event, while they got hail in the middle of the wheat belt, down in our southern regions, they got very heavy rains, and the rains not insurable under your normal farm package. So a multi-peril crop insurance package would have benefited those growers in the south. So we've seen significant damage year on year. So it might be rain one year, it might be drought the next year, it might be drought for 2 or 3 years, and significantly in large areas of my electorate, particularly through Tamman, Calabaran, Cunderden, Yorkakine, those sorts of areas. Frost is a real risk every year, and some of the growers that I speak to, some of the growers that were clients of mine back in my pre-parliamentary days with my livestock company, they have their fingers crossed every year when the rains dissipate towards after the season starts to mature, the skies clear up, and the wheat belt temperatures begin to fall. Then we find that frost damage is very prevalent through some of those areas. So, we are very cognizant of the fact that the risk to our farmers, the risk to production for our state, the income to our state, the income to our communities, the income to our farming families is very real. And so we do advocate in favour of multi-peril crop insurance. We do advocate in favour of risk management mitigation techniques. But nonetheless, it's not the role of government to fund that. It is not the role of government to have a direct subsidy onto those products. But what we can do is give our farmers the tools and allow them to have the market maturation, as I said earlier, and that was the removal of stamp duty for a number of years to allow any company, any product, any revenue or yield-based product to be taken up by our farmers. So, while it's the motion before us is a grand ideal. Now, this council calls on the Barnett government to support the introduction of a crop mitigation product. We are doing that. We are actually doing that every day. We are doing that through investing in through royalties for regions into mobile communications projects. We're investing into weather stations. We're investing, as the Honourable Ken Baston said, into Doppler radar if the Cabinet agrees to that submission. We are every single day through royalties for regions and the seizing the opportunity vision for agriculture. We are actually investing in agriculture. We are making it easier. We are making it more productive for our farmers. We are spending more money in agriculture than has ever been spent by any government ever before. No other government can stand up and say that this is not so. We have, the $300 million agricultural package is like nothing that we have ever seen in West Australia in agriculture ever before. So I'll bring my contribution to an end here, but let me just say that while I agree with most of the sentiments of what the Honourable Darren West is suggesting here, that he does fall short, and I think by being a little bit tricky with saying that he calls on the government to support the introduction. We are supporting the introduction. We are supporting it all the time. We just don't support direct state money into a crop insurance product when we can and we are making it a lot easier. When we can, if the new Treasurer, Mike Nahan, I can't see why we can't revisit the idea of the stamp duty waiver, and I'd be interested to have that conversation, as I'm sure most of my colleagues, or if not all of my colleagues, and I'm sure some of my Liberal Party colleagues as well, would be very happy to walk over old ground with the new Treasurer to try and see if he can understand the benefit to our growing communities, our grower groups, our farming families, by the waiving of stamp duty. Thank you.